Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to my final review of episodes 5 and 6 of Falcon and the Winter Soldier and my overall series review. I know the series has been done for quite some time, but your girl was grinding on exams, so better late than never. This is obviously going to be a spoiler warning. If you haven't seen the show by now, it's been long over, so just go ahead, binge all of them, come back here, and then we'll get into it. So, looking at my handy dandy notes here, episode 5 starts off with John Walker on the run after what I believe is decapitating that one guy from that unfortunate man who was in the Flag Smashers. And it seemed it was interesting because it seemed like he was thinking a lot about Bucky and like I'm not like him, I'm not like a Winter Soldier, blah blah blah, all that stuff. Which is even more interesting because when Sam and Bucky actually show up and they're like, we're taking the shield, like this, this is how it's going to be, and they end up fighting. A lot of the way that the fight scene was choreographed and the way that it was shot kind of echoed some scenes from the Winter Soldier. And then that freaking, I wrote on my notes here, snack crackle popped that man's arm because that was wild. That was I think we talked a little bit about Invincible in the last episode about just like the brutality of it. And I think we got a little bit more of that, a little taste for that once again in this episode. So that was crazy to see, but a little bit satisfying because I don't really like John Walker that much. I feel his pain, but at the same time, he's a weird character. He's a weird character. We'll talk a little bit about that at the end. My next note is about Torres getting the wings, and I put like a little winky face, like, and it's interesting that this happened because I'm just gonna talk about everything as if we all know everything because we should at this point. Sam keeps the wings when he becomes Captain America, so the idea of having like he's not Falcon anymore, but it's still people think of that. So I'm wondering if they are gonna let Torres kind of excuse me, take up that mantle as the Falcon, or what they're gonna do with that if they just like a nod to the comics. So we'll see. We'll see with that. Then the next scene I have written down here is the scene where John Walker's in court and they're talking about like, you messed up, you shouldn't have done that in public, we would have allowed it otherwise. But and then John Walker's kind of like laying down the law, saying like, you guys created me. I was only doing what you guys asked of me, and now you're punishing me. We're punishing me for this, and it's echoing a lot of conversation that has been in the news and just in general the veterans have talked about. Like the treatment of veterans after they come back home. So I think it was good that was like a part of the series as well. If we're gonna tackle some deep topics, might as well bring in as much as we can with like the relevancy of the show. And then I believe this is the episode where we get to introduce to Contessa, aka Val, aka Madam Hydra, which is that's her role in the comic books. So who knows if that's going to be happening within the current MCU, but there'll probably be some nods or something. But the nerve of this woman, she's already starting off on a bad foot for me. Just like sitting in between John and his wife and just like shutting her up and like, like backhanded compliments. Like I feel like it was kind of like a backhanded like, oh, like shut up for a second, you're not saying anything important, but you look great though. Like I feel like that's what she was doing while she was trying to talk to John and get him on her side, which really was not a challenge at all. He was just trying to get back in action at that point. So next thing here is oh yes, this scene was interesting. So the next scene that I have of note is Zemo standing at the memorial in Sokovia for all the people that had died when the Avengers like came through with Ultron and all of that. And Bucky shows up and he has a gun and I'm sitting here like, ooh, like what's going to transpire from this? And Bucky like points it right to his face, and Zemo, he's just he's accepting it basically, and he even gives him like a little like, I'm ready, like just go ahead. And then Bucky pulls the trigger and the chamber is empty, and he like drops all the bullets on the gun. And he's like, ha, I could have done it but I didn't. And I'm like, whoa, like what the Like, I don't know. That was weird. I was not thinking that Zemo was gonna let himself go down that easily, or like that was something that he wanted. And I'm curious how that's going to play into his character, especially if he's going to be a part of the Thunderbolts. So interesting little moment with Zemo, but then he does get taken away by the Dora Milaje and taken to the raft. And that is where Bucky actually asks for a favor from the Dora Milaje after Okoye says, like, don't come back to Wakanda for a bit because, we're not happy with you. And he's like, oh, okay, my bad. By the way, can I get something from you before we go? So that I just thought that was funny that he had the nerve to ask that. So then we see Sam going back to talk to Isaiah, and he actually talks to Elijah before he gets to their house, and you see Elijah just airball right in the middle of the street, which I thought was hilarious. But moving on from that, Sam goes to talk to Elijah to get his perspective on possibly taking up the mantle of Captain America, and I don't know, I guess just get some advice from like man to man, but especially being two black men and having that perspective there. And Elijah's point of view is quite literally heartbreaking. And it was interesting when this was just an episode by itself. I felt like what he was saying, like, like any black man, any self-respecting black man wouldn't want to be Captain America, because of all the controversy that symbol holds and just the way that the American government had treated Isaiah in the past. And then you see at the end of the episode, Sam is like, I'm going to go ahead and do this or whatever. So at the time, I thought it was like conflicting with what he had gotten from Isaiah. Cause I'm like, well, if Isaiah told you to do this and you hold his opinion in high regard, why would you do this? But then it's later explained in episode 6. So it makes more sense. He was basically trying to say, like we had the right to take up this name because we're Americans too. We built this country. You can't tell me I can't fight for it. He says that in the 6th episode as well. So but this moment right here in episode 5, that was crazy. That was really real. I guess that's the best way I can describe it. It was just a good scene, in my opinion. Really good scene. So then I believe after this, I don't write all the scene descriptions, but it's funny because literally my note here was just Bucky cheesing. And I think this is when Bucky actually visits Sam while they're in Louisiana, and he meets Sarah, and he's like, hey, Sarah, which I thought was funny. And I think Sam, the next thing I wrote down, which is weird, Sam and Bucky are talking, and Bucky's like, don't people judge me here or something, blah, blah, blah. Something like that. Something about judgment. And Sam says, like, people don't care if your mom is your aunt or something like that. And I'm like, people don't care if your mom is your aunt? Like, I see what you're trying to say, but at the same time, it's none of anybody's business. That's just weird, though. That's just weird. That might just be me, but that is very weird. But moving on to the next scene, we see John Walker talking to Lamar's family and explaining, like, like, I got the bad guy, I got whoever killed Lamar because I had to do that for you guys. And it was funny because Lamar's sister is actually giving John the side eye the whole time. So one thing I wrote down is, could she have heard something from Lamar? Because I don't know if she was still in contact with him while they were over in Latvia or what. And he was like talking about, John was acting a little crazy because even Lamar, he kept trying to calm him down. So I'm like, maybe she knows more than she's letting on, or she just generally doesn't like John Walker. It's not explained, but it was kind of weird that she gave him a little side eye. And then we see that Sharon actually hired Batroc for the in the first episode when they were trying to take that guy from the U.S. military, which we still don't know why he was super, super important. But it's interesting because, at this point, they're not blatantly saying she's the power broker, but they're pretty much saying she's the power broker, which was, but I wrote down, is that good or bad? I don't know what I was thinking here when I first wrote this, but it is kind of when I talked on the Geek Vibes Nation podcast, which I'll have somewhere in, let's see, one of these two corners somewhere up at the top of the screen, that Sharon might be playing like a double agent kind of role where she's actually on the good guy's side but has to work with the bad guys on some things just to, keep the cover going and also keep getting information. But I didn't agree with that, but that was just something that was thrown out there. So I don't know. Maybe there'll be some developing theory about that later on. But especially with Armor Wars, because people think that she's going to be in it because she got welcomed back to America and to Sword, I believe it is, in the 6th episode. So we'll see. This next note is a big note for me. So in this scene, Bucky and Sam are just tossing the shield around, talking about like each other's problems and how they're gonna work it out or attempt to work it out and with possible solutions. And this was felt like the most genuine bonding scene of the whole series, which in some ways I feel like is a detriment to the series, because if this is supposed to be about them building a relationship, then why do I feel like they're just now getting to really know each other and understand each other in like the second to last episode of the series? Granted, I think COVID switched a lot of things around. In fact, I know it switched a lot of things around with the plot and possibly the length of the series, but it just, that aside, let me just move on to the positive stuff. That aside, I thought it was really good that they were actually able to have a bonding moment and really understand each other and actually help each other in a way with their different perspectives. And then something else that was a part of this bonding moment was Bucky talking about why it hurt him that Sam had given away the shield, because he was saying that now that Steve is gone, the shield felt like it was his last, the last part of his family that he could hold on to, and then that was given away. And I feel like that was basically them saying, like Steve has passed on at this point, he's dead. Some people are saying like, oh no, they're just talking about Captain America, like Steve playing the role of Captain America is done. And I'm like, so here's the thing. Even if they did bring Steve back, what would he do? He's, I don't even know how old, but too old to really help a fighting effort. Sure, Steve is smart, but they have more like other people that could take the role of intelligence. So I don't know. What purpose would Steve serve? Not that I wouldn't like to see him again, but what would he serve? I think there's like the rumor of him being on the moon or something. I think that was just supposed to be like a fun little, I don't know, something for people to think about. But I feel like Steve is dead at this point. That's just me though. So another note I wrote down about this scene, the bonding scene, is that just like how Bucky was trying to hold on to the shield as like part of like his family legacy, that's kind of what Sam was trying to do with the boat, when he was arguing with Sarah, like, like we can't let go of our family legacy. So I feel like on those two topics they have like some related ground there. So that was good for their bonding moment as well. So then to close out the episode, we see the GRC, I believe it's the GRC. They're having a meeting in New York, and they're talking about the way people are going to perceive things. And I actually have this one in quotes. So one of the things they said is the optics are whatever we show them. So I feel like that was like another little comment on the way that governments are run, not just like an American government, but governments in general, because a lot of them, at least I feel, are not as honest as they probably should be. So it was interesting to have that little hint in there. Even if it wasn't a hint, it's just like, that this government is not really trying to do the right thing, because like if they were, then the optics would be like as they are, like, they wouldn't be trying to hide anything. So that just shows like, they don't really have the best intentions for all the parties involved. And then we close out the episode with an end credit scene of John Walker actually building his own shield. So I was very curious to see how that thing was going to hold up. It was a little bit funny because, it looked like, I forget what show on YouTube that I think actually became like a real TV show, where they build all the different weapons from video games and cartoons and things like that. But I feel like I was watching that, but he just completely messed up and the star on the shield looked wrong. But was an interesting little idea, showing that, I'm not giving up on this. I'm going to be Captain America. But then we move on to episode 6, One World, One People. So we see, starting off, Bucky is arriving on the scene of the attack on the GRC's headquarters in New York, I believe. And we see Sharon actually showed up to help with that. And interesting that Sharon's back in America. So I'm like, weird. You're in America, even though you said you couldn't be, but okay. So the next thing I have of note is Sam's entrance with his new suit. I thought that was very cool, the way he like broke the window with the shield, then flew in with his suit. And then we see the suit, and I like the concept of it. The actual suit itself, though, it looks like, the best way I can describe it is like a kid's Halloween costume. Like, it looked like kind of padded and not like the form-fitting suits that we're used to. So I actually made this joke in the Geek Vibes Nation podcast. I was saying, like, I don't know if they went to a Wakandan party city, but Shuri definitely did not do her best work with this suit, in my opinion. As far as like the way that it fits, I think the design itself is all right. It looked better in the comics, in my opinion, but if they could just like slim it down a little bit, I feel like it would be like, all right, like this is a good superhero suit. So Sam's getting into some action with, he's going to get into some action with Backdrop. But before that, he's talking with Sharon and Bucky, trying to coordinate them. So Sharon is supposed to try and help make sure the evacuation's going good, and like also take down some flag smashers, I do believe. I'm not 100% sure what their plan was there. And I think Bucky was supposed to try and do the same thing. So Bucky gets caught up in a phone call with Carly, and for some reason can't walk and talk because he's just standing in the same place for like who knows how long talking to Carly. And Sharon's actually going and doing some work and actually like burning people up with mercury vapor. So she tags one of the flag smashers with it and stops his van. So that's like one less flag smasher they have to worry about. But my God, he looked like freaking Deadpool in the face, the way that stuff did that to him. Like, wow. Okay, Sharon. When Sam actually gets into his fight with Backdrop, I'm really glad that it was actually more realistic than I would have expected, with him getting the new suit and he has the shield. Like, some people probably would have been like, oh, he's just gonna like beat Backdrop off like it's nothing. But Backdrop is actually, I believe he has the super soldier serum. If not, he's just a really strong dude. And so it would not be that easy for Sam to fight him. And it definitely wasn't in the show. So that was really cool to see that it wasn't exactly an even fight, but Sam still had some fight in him. So then we see Sam kind of exit the building like, you know what, this fight's not really doing anything for me. I got to go help some people. There's a helicopter that had left that was being flown by a flag smasher, and he took some people from the GRC. So Sam went after that, threw the shield out the window again. I'm like, this poor people have to fix up this building, all these broken windows. So he flies out, which was another cool exit. I really appreciate that. I feel like the shield, adding the shield with the Falcon is just gonna add too much sauce. It was really cool. But he goes out, flies next to the helicopter, and the pilot just turns around like, I'm like, what the frick? This dude is just ready to start blasting people, apparently. So Sam contacts the lady or a woman who's in the helicopter because he finds out she has flight training. He's like, oh, okay, well, I can use this to my advantage. And I love that he actually like thought that through and had a plan for that. That was really interesting to me and really cool to see that, instead of just like going with the Hulk kind of strategy of like smash and beat people up, he was actually trying to think a little bit more strategically. So next thing of note is John Walker shows up on the scene, and of course he's going to call Carly out for some like a kind of duel situation. And something that Carly says which I feel like this episode, in specific episode 6, kind of fumbles with like some of their political messaging, where it was more subtle and nuanced, but you knew what it meant. I just like that better. I don't know. It's weird. But Lamar. John Walker is talking to Carly about Lamar, like, you killed him, blah, blah, blah. Now I gotta kill you or beat you up or whatever. And Carly's like, I'm sorry about your friend. Like, I didn't mean to kill him. I didn't mean to kill people who didn't matter. And John Walker's like, Lamar's life mattered or whatever. And I'm like, oh, jeez. I'm like, oh, okay. I see what you're doing, but it was a little heavy-handed in my opinion. Could have had something a little bit more subtle, but makes sense. I don't know. It's weird. I feel like with entertainment, if you're gonna tackle political subjects, you either got to go like full blast, like this is what it is, or like I like the more subtle approach, where we can still talk about a fictional story, but we can have some real elements to it. This kind of in betweenish for like, we're gonna say things that are referenced to real life but still kind of keep you in this like fantasy thing, it just wasn't working for me, and I feel like it didn't work for a lot of people, or at least the people I follow on the internet. So then moving on with the episode, Sam is able to contact the woman in the helicopter and is able to coordinate with her actually, so that he could get the pilot out of the seat so she could get in the seat and then fly them to safety, which was really cool. Then we move on to, I believe Bucky is fighting Dovich? I can't remember his name. It might be Dovich, it might not be. I don't know. He's fighting the Flag Smasher with like the longer hair. And Carly is fighting John Walker. And John Walker gets, I feel like he gets in a lot of good hits, but it took one hit for Walker to go down. I'm like, oh, come on, man. Come on. So then Carly's like, we need to give them somebody to save, so that way she can have a distraction to like, I guess, regroup or whatever. So first time she does this, she actually sets one of the vans that had a lot of the GRC members in it. She sets one of them on fire. So Bucky's trying to handle that. He ends up extinguishing it. Everybody's okay. The other one, she drives kind of off a little platform, so it's hanging at least 2 stories off the ground. So obviously if it falls, people are going to die. So John Walker sees this, and he sees Carly, and he makes the decision to go save the people. And I was really happy about that because, I'm tired of angry John Walker. I want an actual character, not just an emotion. So I was glad to see that John Walker made the right decision to go save those people, although he doesn't end up having like a fair chance of it because people start beating him up as he's trying to pull it. So car is continuing to fall, and for some reason Bucky's just standing there looking at it. Like, I don't know if he was planning to try and catch it, although that definitely, I don't think that would have worked out. But he's just standing there like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. I'm like, Bucky, do something. So thankfully Sam shows up and is holding the truck up. Then he has 2 Red Wings actually, so he's got 2 new buddies. They attach to the truck and they push it up, so that it's like back on stable ground. Those people are able to get out. So that was good. But what was interesting to me, and I noticed this happening a lot, or at least it's happened enough times for it to become like a noticeable thing for me, is whenever there's a black superhero that does something, not all the time, but I feel like enough times where I'm like, okay, whatever. But there was some reason a random black crowd that was near the scene that was like, yeah, let's go, Black Falcon. And then one younger guy's like, that's not Black Falcon, that's Captain America. And I'm like, you could have done that same thing, had like a mixed crowd, like, just a regular crowd of people, not a specific crowd, and had those 2 black people say like, oh, Black Falcon, that's not Black Falcon, that's Captain America. Not saying it was wrong of them to do that. It's just kind of weird because everywhere else you see like all kinds of different people, different shades, all of that. And then for some reason, this one particular scene, a black crowd. I don't know. That was weird to me. So then after the black crowd applauds Sam for saving those people, Backdrop shows up with a, what are those things called? I want to say noob tube, but I don't even know if that's the right terminology. Anyway, it shoots these smoke pellets out, so it's hard for them to see. So Flag Smasher's trying to scurry away. Sam's got his goggles that have thermal vision on it, so he's like, okay, follow me. I know where they're going. So he follows them into like this confined sewer-ish area, and Carly gets cornered by Sharon, and they're talking about, or Sharon's talking about like, oh, you know, you shouldn't have left my group. Like, we could have done so much together. And Carly's like, you know, I don't want to, I didn't join you for power. I joined you because I wanted to make a change in the world. Basically saying, I think it was even explicit. They said like, oh, you're the power broker, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, oh, Sharon is the power broker? Oh my God. This could have been done so much better. Even though now that I've seen, like, all I've seen and I've thought about it, I don't think Sharon's the power broker. But the fact that they did it this way is just, again, one of the bigger detriments to this show. And I guess it might just be me because I do like the mysterious part of the shows, or the shows that I watch. I like to be able to, like, piece things together and not have it be so obvious as to who did what. Because that's part of the fun for me. So the fact that it was like right off the bat, or pretty much right off the bat, oh, Sharon's the power broker. Like, that just kind of ruined this whole reveal for me. But let's pretend I didn't know who the power broker was. So, oh my God, it's the power broker, Sharon, whoa! And then Batrov walks in. He's like, oh, so you're the power broker. So guess what? You're going to pay me 4 times as much now that I know you're the power broker. And if you don't, I'm going to tell everybody you're the power broker. And Sharon's like, yeah, I don't play that. Bam! And just kills him. And like, dang. That, you know, I don't condone violence, but that was pretty great. That was pretty great. Because that's exactly what I would have done in this situation. Not just like the stereotypical show thing of like, oh no, well, you know what, I guess I'll pay you, blah, blah, blah. Or like try and make some kind of deal and then betray each other later. Sharon got straight to the point. Like, yeah, I don't play that. And just killed him. So then while Sharon's firing at Batrov, Carly fires at Sharon. So now Sharon is wounded. So Sam was able to find them because he heard like the gunshots go off. He's like, Carly, what the heck? Like, why would you shoot these people? And Carly says nothing about like Sharon shooting Batrov, which I thought was funny. So I'm like, dang, this is the perfect setup for Sharon. So then they have their little tussle or whatever. And just as Carly is about to kill Sam, or potentially kill Sam, Sharon shoots Carly like 3 times in the gut. So Carly's pretty much going to die at that point. So then it's kind of odd, Sam's behavior in this episode, because he's kind of treating Carly like he knows her really well, or like she was, like, I guess she does have good intentions, but she's going about it the wrong way. I understand that. But the way he's treating her is like as if he knew her super well, or like he didn't threaten his nephews and his sister, because he goes over to her side and he's like holding her like, oh no, like this, it shouldn't have ended like this. And it was interesting to me that Carly's like, I'm sorry. And I'm like, now you're sorry when you're on your deathbed? I'm like, what is that apology worth at this point? You're just saying it because, you know, I'm about to die. Might as well make somebody feel good. So that was whatever. But I guess it meant something to Sam, because Sam leaves the area carrying Carly out, leaves Sharon to bleed out. I don't know why he just left her down there. It's not like Sharon was shot too, but he leaves Sharon down there, takes Carly up to the surface, and he shows everybody like, you know, like she's down, like this is over. So there's some people who carry her off on like a Gertie thing. So there's the potential that Carly could come back, although I'm pretty sure she's dead. But if they did bring her back, I'm sure they would cite that like, oh yeah, remember when you took her off to the thing, when we took her to the hospital and revived her, now she's good. So quote me on that if that happens, I'm telling you. But then we get this really, once again, heavy-handed speech about like Carly's motives and how Carly's motives are better than the GRC, which they were, but just the way that it was presented, when he was talking to the senator and the different GRC members. It was like, what he was saying was true and should have been said. But in the context of this show, it's kind of like, okay, I see what you're saying. I don't know. It felt weird. I don't know. It just felt odd. It felt odd to me. But he was saying some things that needed to be said and was telling them, if a misguided teenager went this far, even to her death, to try and stop you guys should consider, why she did that, and maybe making some possible changes of your own. That was the message there. And I forgot to say this in a video, but one of my friends made the good point of, all of this political messaging stuff about having a Black Captain America is good. But at the same time, it feels like for Marvel, it's a justification as to this is why we can have a Black Captain America, where they really shouldn't have to justify it. And in a world where, we didn't have to justify putting this person in this position just because of their race. They could have just said Sam is the new Captain America and people would have accepted it. So, not that I think that they've done anything wrong in this series, but it is an interesting point, that they did have to go about it this way, or chose to go about it this way. So then, after that speech, Sam walks off to go see Bucky, and Bucky's like, I missed your speech. I was texting, blah, blah. He's like, hey, shut up, man. You saw it. He's like, yeah, I saw it, bro. And then we see Sharon, who miraculously got out that sewer, I guess. Still bleeding out, though. They have their little talk, you're looking good, Cap. He's like, thanks, man. So then, next scene after that, we see the remaining Flag Smashers who were captured. The long-haired one, the black lady, and the white lady, they got arrested and were put into this van. And then one of the guards for the van says, one world, one people. And they're like, yeah, we're gonna break out. And then the car just blows up. And I was like, so then we see the freaking Zemo's butler sitting there with the detonator. I'm like, dang. So I wrote down one hell of a butler. So if y'all know that reference, then I respect you. But that was pretty funny. Just out of nowhere that happened. So Zemo did get the last laugh on the raft, and he even heard it on the news on his radio, and he was like, good job. And he just keeps reading his book, which was funny. Then after this, we go back to the courthouse for some reason, where Walker is trying on his new costume and officially, or I guess unofficially, becomes the U.S. agent. So definitely putting a team together for the Thunderbolts, which I thought those Flag Smashers were going to be a part of until they became Rebel. So I'm not sure who all's in the Thunderbolts, but I know John Walker is in it and Zemo's in it. And Bullseye? I don't know. There's a lot more people that need to be introduced before we can get to that point. So then we get scenes for the wrap-up of the series. Bucky goes to the old man that he has lunch with, and he tells him the truth. Your son was actually murdered, and I'm the one who killed him as the Winter Soldier. And then it just cuts away to him walking away, which I thought was kind of funny because it's just hey, I did it. All right, peace. What some people, I didn't necessarily get criticized for it, but they're just like, no, that's not what he did. That's not what he did. I'm like, okay. I was just trying to be funny. But he probably did have a conversation with him, although I don't know how they would even start with that, just about that whole situation. But he was able to knock off or cross out everybody on his list. So he was able to, make amends with people, which was good. And then Sam shows up to Isaiah's house, and Elijah answers the door. And I don't understand the way they're writing Elijah or why he's acting the way he's acting. I don't know which one it is. Elijah answers the door hey, what you want, Black Falcon? And I'm like, what the? Why are you so hostile? Especially after watching what he did on the news. I would have at least been neutral. At the least. But he was acting a little hostile. And then later on in the scene, when Sam's like, all right, Isaiah, we're getting ready to go somewhere. He's like, oh, can I come? And I'm like, what is with you, bro? But besides the point, Sam shows up to Isaiah's house and they talk about what he did on the news, what the speech, the GRC, and talking about being a black man wearing the stars and stripes and becoming Captain America. And Isaiah's like, you know what? You're special, man. You could do this. You can change. You could change the game for a lot of people. And then my favorite part, I think of probably the whole entire series, Sam's like, you know what? I want you to clean yourself up. I want to take you somewhere. So they go back to the museum where they had Captain America's museum. And they go to this like back corner. I don't really know the construction of this room, but it looked like they went like back in the back corner or something. And they see that Isaiah has an exhibit in this museum, which is awesome. He has like a statue of himself and a plaque explaining like how he was the first African-American super soldier and all this other stuff, and photos from him in the war and him being in the military. And it was just a really, really touching moment, and definitely had some teary eyes watching that. And Isaiah was just like so touched. He was like, thanks, Sam. Or he didn't say it like that, but he was just like, thank you for doing this for me. And he gave him a hug. You know, it was just a really sweet moment. Oh, I actually skipped something. So let's rewind for a second. So before they showed up at the museum and they were at his house talking, it was funny because Isaiah was talking about how he's on the news, but he's like, well, you're no Martin Luther King, well, he doesn't say Martin Luther King. He says, you're no Martin or Malcolm or Mandela. And it's funny because Anthony Mackie actually has played Martin Luther King in a movie before. So I thought that was a little funny, possible joke that maybe or maybe not was unintentional. But yes. So then, ending the series off, we have the new title screen, which instead of it being Falcon and the Winter Soldier, it's now Captain America and the Winter Soldier, which was awesome to see. And the end credit scene was Sharon actually being pardoned and welcomed back to SWORD. So as soon as she gets out of that courthouse, she calls up her boss, her partner, we don't know yet, and says, you know, I'm in, like, you know, forget having super soldiers. We have access to all this other tech now. So we're about to get back in business. Which I think, once again, as I said earlier, or if I didn't say it earlier, I'll say it now. I don't think Sharon is the power broker. Or if she is a power broker, I feel like a power groper, power groper? Well, I don't know anything about that. But if she is a part of a group of power brokers, then I don't think she's like the leader of them. But if not, I don't think that she's the power broker. I think she's working with them and is not a minion or a grunt or anything, but you know, somebody who's lower. Because every time that she is talking on the phone, it doesn't seem like she's getting reported to. It seems like she's reporting to somebody else. So that's my theory for right now. I feel pretty good about it actually too, so I'm gonna stick with that. But yeah, my last thing before we get to a series recap is just where the F is Steve? Like, I think he's dead, but if they were gonna say something that was going to combat that idea, they definitely would have said it in this episode. Said nothing of it except made that same, oh, Captain America's on the moon joke. I thought he was on the moon, but no, it's Sam. It's Sam now. So yeah, I feel like Steve is dead, but if he's not, we don't know where he's at. Possibly on the moon, but why would he be on the moon? I don't know. But that was the end of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier series, at least for the moment. I enjoyed it. I think I enjoyed WandaVision a little bit more, just because it was really, really different and out there, and that was a really interesting factor for me. I also think it wasn't as easy to figure out like what was going on, so that was what kept me more intrigued. when we actually got to the story bits and not just like the sitcom stuff. Although I appreciate the effort they put in that, but that's not why I was there. But for this show in particular, the whole power broker thing, since like that was the biggest mystery of this whole series, actually, mystery. They could have done that much better, but once again, they did have to do reshoots and like restructure the story because of COVID, because they supposedly supposed to be about a pandemic situation that is apparently very close to the pandemic that we're currently in, and they thought that that was going to hit too close to home for a lot of people, so they avoided that storyline. But which is interesting, because I feel like there's been, especially, it was interesting that like the first time I used HBO Max, they had like at least 3 or 4 different pandemic themed movies where it's like people fall in love in the pandemic, or people are stuck together in the pandemic, or something like that. So I don't know. I feel like that they might have could have done that and people would have been okay with it, but it was probably the right choice in the end. I did like the political undertones, and in the last episode became political overtones of the show. I feel like it's something that is always need to be talked about if we're going to make any kind of progress in our society. Although, once again, as I said in I think my first review of the show, the first 2 episodes, I do think it's unfortunate that most of the times when we have these kind of discussions, it's when we have a person of color as the lead of the show or the movie or anything like that. Like, I think these discussions should not just be limited to them, because these conversations do kind of weigh people down. So of course it's going to weigh down these people of color in their series as well. So it's unfortunate. But you know, sometimes it is necessary to have the conversation, especially depending on the themes of the show. I would have loved to see more from Bucky. I feel like we didn't get as much of him, which, you know, is okay, since I feel like we knew literally next to nothing about Sam. So developing him was more important than developing Bucky in this scenario, but it would have been nice to have a little bit more development, although I feel like what we got was satisfactory for the moment. And freaking, before I get to John Walker again, let me talk about Lamar. I feel like it would have been nice to get to know Lamar a little bit more. I'm not saying that I necessarily need it, but I feel like he was there and then he wasn't. So I don't know. I feel bad for that actor. Because, you know, getting to be in the MCU is not something everybody gets to do. And just to be in it for this small section, it's cool, but it would have been nice to see him in some more stuff. So I don't know if they could bring him back, but it'll be cool if he does come back in some kind of capacity. But now talking about freaking John Walker, I liked John Walker better when he was acting as John Walker the person and not angry John Walker. I'm not I feel like it was really not bad direction explicitly for him, but it just made him, because he was supposed to be likable when we were not first introduced. I guess the second time we got introduced to him, when we got to see him go to his high school and have the big ceremony and stuff like that. But then just like turn so quickly on its head. It's like, why would you even like make me attempt to like this person if you clearly don't want me to like this person? And then he's just acting really like abusing his power that I don't even know that he really had. And I don't know. If we were not supposed to like him, then I think they did a good job. But if we were supposed to have like some kind of sympathetic feelings for him, then they definitely need to do a better job developing that. With that, I would definitely recommend watching this show. I think it was a good watch, especially if you wanted to know more about Sam, or you just wanted to see more of Bucky, and get to know his character a little bit more. I think I'll give it a 7 out of 10. I think it was good. There's some room for improvement. But yeah, I think it was a good show. And I'm excited to see like where things play out in the future, because I know the Black Widow movie was supposed to kind of feed into this a little bit with Contessa, because apparently Contessa plays a part in the Black Widow movie, which I don't even know how they're going to market that at this point. I feel like a lot of people, even including myself, which is unfortunate, are going to be like a little over it. And I don't even know if it's going to hold up to people's expectations. Hoping for the best, though. Hoping for the best. Because I was really excited when I heard it was coming out. But now it's been, what, like a year or maybe a year and some change? I don't know. But also excited for the Loki show. Well, I'm curious to see what they're gonna do with that. I have like no expectations for that, although people seem to be really hyped for it. So I don't know. We'll see how that goes. And then Shang Chi, which was just recently announced, that I did like a trailer review of it, which will be somewhere on the top of the screen. I thought that looked really cool. I know absolutely nothing about Shang Chi, so I'm curious to see where they're gonna take his origin story, where they're gonna take like just the story progressing after that, and how they might weave it into some of the, I guess, like bigger stories at the end of the year with Spider-Man and Doctor Strange, with like the whole multiverse thing developing. So yeah, I think that's all I have to say about this series. I've got like at least 3 or 4 other videos to record today, just to catch up with you guys. But once again, I'm really thankful for the support that you guys have given me over not just this past month with me dealing with files and whatnot, but just the whole time I've been posting on my channel. It's been really excited to see just like the growth that I've experienced and being able to talk with you guys as well. And I hope you guys are enjoying that too. So if you are, time for my YouTuber plug. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe if you're new to see more reviews of different series. Next one I will be reviewing is going to be Invincible, actually. Next thing I'm going to be talking about is Invincible. So that'll probably be in the end card somewhere on the screen. I'll also be talking about Yasuke and maybe a little bit of the Mortal Kombat movie. So I have been watching things, just haven't had the time to record. But yeah, once again, thank you guys so much for keeping up with me and supporting the content. And I'm excited to give you guys some more, especially over the summer. So with that, I hope you all have a nice evening or your night. Whereas enjoy it. I'll see you guys in the next video.